episode 9. All right, everybody. Welcome in to episode 9 of the...
Oh, Rob, you want to unmute?
Yep, that's right. We're live, so anything can happen. All right.
Well, let me unmute it.
There we go, Rob. I was about to jump in.
All right, like I was saying, episode 9, Cougar Digest podcast. Welcome in, everybody. As always, joined by Kevin Digital Dude, and as joined often by Gatlin Stewart as well on the board on here as well. We do our post-game stuff. He's kind of been of our X's and O's guy on here, and I always appreciate these guys' times. Anybody got some thoughts about last night's game coming out, other than obviously the good video work there by Kevin to open us up?
You know what? I do want to just say that, if you look at the game objectively, which I was trying to do like yesterday when I was thinking about it, that was a really good game. It was a really fun game. And it was a really, really good game day atmosphere out there. So I think you're a casual fan. If you're watching that game, you watched a really good game. You watched a really competitive game. The outcome wasn't what we wanted, but I think that we played well out there. We competed, and we don't have anything to feel bad about. Those are just my thoughts, initial thoughts.
Very, very true. I think it's been pointed out already a bunch. I think it's great that the team didn't quit when it was 21-0. That could have been, I don't think there was any secret that Texas was coming in to play that game, and they came out hot, and Houston could have laid down and just accepted it. And as was said on the board, that's one thing at least you can give credit to is these teams under this staff. They definitely always fight. They don't quit. So it was good. Like you said, it turned into a heck of a game. If you got to the 21-0 point and turned it off, like you said, as a casual fan, then you missed a heck of the rest of the 3 quarters of the game. So, Gatlin, what about you from your perspective yesterday? What did you think?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like I walked away from that game kind of conflicted, to be honest with you, because on the one hand, you're right. Like you watch that and you're like, man, Houston fought. They gave number 8 everything they wanted, and you feel so encouraged, right? You're like, man, if they could just play like this every week, this is a bowl eligible team the rest of the way. But there's the other part of me that walks away and goes, man, we gave them absolutely everything we had, and it wasn't enough. And you saw in, unfortunately, the biggest moments. Obviously there was some problems with the officiating and all of that, but at the end of the day, Houston had several opportunities to have big moments that are Houston legacy moments, and didn't come up with them. And that's not a beratement or a judgment on the team. I thought they played their hearts out and played a good game. Just wasn't a perfect game. And like we kind of said going into the week, if Houston was going to pull this off, they needed to play a perfect game. Yep. And we came up with just a few plays shy of that. So
yeah, it was fun to see how it played out. I'll be honest with you. I think everybody would say after the 21-0 start that a lot of people were probably in one of those modes of, okay, well, here we go. It's just kind of what we expected. It turned into a fun ball game. It really did.
Yeah.
Even a casual fan watching that, and I know there were plenty of casual fans, because anybody that's a casual football fan, except for the Texas fans, generally love to watch them struggle or lose. So I think that's just common. I think that goes without saying. Just even looking at it from the outside, people love to see cocky teams lose sometimes, and I get it. They're hated by a lot of people. So it was fun. I think it would have been entertaining for the casual fan. Good call on the game too. I didn't realize it at the time, so I went back to the replay, obviously, but good call. I like Spencer Tillman, obviously. He's been talked about a bit on the board today, but I think he does a great job, and I think it's his study and his background that helps him be a better guy on broadcast like that, just because I think he keeps up with even the newer stuff that's happening, so he knows what he's talking about.
Right.
Definitely a little better than the call we got on Thursday against West Virginia.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how much a lot of these national analysts that are on the pregame shows and things like that, how much they actually watch any Houston football to be able to speak intelligently about it. I think they have their
sometimes.
Yeah, they have their preconceived notions, and they see what they see the record, and things like that, and they go off of that, and they go off the previous history, But of course, we're the guys that are watching these games, watching every play, watching everything that happens, in order to analyze it, so we can understand what's going on inside the game.
I did kind of chuckle when I don't remember which one it was, but somebody on the broadcast when I was watching it back said at some point, Dana Holgerson, probably top 5 in the sport of in-game adjustments. And And I was like, I've got a board full of Cougar fans that would beg to
Strongly disagree.
Yeah. Well, hey, they made some great adjustments in the game yesterday.
I was
You
going
know,
to say there was some in-game adjustments that I did see there were, and then of course we talked last night, this morning about the. I hope people were able to understand the correlation I made between going to that 3-3.
oh, I think we might have lost Rob there.
Oh no.
All right, Rob, check your battery, check your internet connection. All right, looks like he's back. Rob, you with us still? Yeah, it looks like he's frozen.
Oh no.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I did want to make some points also about he said, the slow start, right? And we had 13 total yards at the end of the first quarter. We had 13 total yards, and I think our rushing yards were actually in the negative. So, while we didn't play a complete 4-quarter game, I would say that we outplayed the number 8 team in the country for 3 quarters, after the first quarter.
Yeah, and I kind of, so I watched that first quarter, and a couple things that jumped out to me initially. Just Houston was not, I think, ready for the speed of Texas. Like, you watched that first touchdown when A.D. Mitchell, is running the post or the corner route on Isaiah Hamilton. He's got outside leverage, and A.D. Mitchell, attacks vertical. He puts his foot in the ground, and Hamilton did a 360. That's how aggressive that speed was. And I think once Houston kind of settled into that, you saw it on defense too. Like, those windows were a little tighter than Donovan probably expected. And, so even the open throws, there's somebody on his hip, and, the ball's just behind him, a step late, a step slow. And, once Houston kind of settled in and adjusted to the speed of the game, you're right. Like you said, Rob, I think they responded well, and that was positive to see.
Yeah. Am I back with you guys now?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, good. All right. I don't know what that was. But anyway, as far as the game goes, I think we were talking, I don't know where I got cut off, but I think I made the correlation, and I hope at least it made sense to somebody. That's basically what I try most time. Hopefully I can get to. But Houston bringing out the 3-3-5 yesterday for the first time all year. And after not showing it at all, it was the exact same move that SMU pulled on Houston when Derek King was here. And they had that game where they just looked lost because they planned all week for SMU's defense they'd run all year. And it's not that these coaches don't know how to defeat a 3-3-5 or whatever, or 33 stack. It's not that they don't know how to defeat that. It's that they prepared for 2 weeks to not play. I mean, you know what I mean? It comes down to all the preparation. And for them to kind of, of course, you're playing against a pretty high level talent there in Texas, and they got some smart players on their team, smart coaches. Yeah, I think they've made some adjustments, but I felt like the approach of using that did a pretty good job of keeping Quinn Ewers on his feet in terms of, he's a talented quarterback. You had to throw something weird at him, but I think it achieved what they were looking to achieve in terms of where they wanted to try to force the play and the action from Texas offensively.
Certainly. Well, and I kind of agreed with you. As crazy as it is to say, it kind of feels like Texas got outcoached in this game, wire to wire. When you look at, certainly the fourth, the defensive switch, which you're right, Rob. We've talked some on this board and on this podcast about, like what a game plan looks like, right? And so, how many plays do you actually have on your call sheet against Houston that is effective against the 3-3-5, right? You attack it very differently. So if you don't have that on your call sheet, you haven't been practicing those plays all week, all of a sudden you're having to, kind of draw that up on the sidelines on a whiteboard, and, these guys aren't ready for it. They don't know what to look for. It's going to be challenging. But, I thought some of the calls Sark made, and, I guess this is just part of their identity. Maybe I haven't watched enough Texas to know, but how many times they went for it on 4th and short, or like the really questionable fake field goal right there at the end of the first half. Like, Houston was ready for it. They lined up AJ Halsey on the outside and, played contain really well. Like, I thought the coaching staff wanted this really bad, and they outcoached Sark and his staff on Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like you said, for the times that they've drawn criticism, and even rightfully so at times, I thought they had a great game plan, and for in terms of what they wanted to do. I know there's been debate about the fourth down call late, and I think I made myself clear on that, and I think it's kind of worked its way out now. Even now that some people have been able to go back and watch that play
Yeah.
after the fact, and how well it was run and how open it was there. I mean, it was absolutely the right play call to get the distance that they needed, that they shouldn't have even still been fighting for, but that they needed in that. The pick worked perfectly, and he was a step throwing it. I mean, he did a little one of those double pump, tap the ball things before he threw it, and like you said before, it's not to try to degrade or anything like that. These guys are doing things that you and I couldn't even do in our best day, obviously. But
Yeah, and I'll say, like, so I was texting with my brother-in-law, former college quarterback, and we were talking about that play after the game, and his comment was to if you want to ask a question on the staff, it's that's not an easy throw. It looks
fair,
easy,
right?
But you're
With the
playing
rollout.
that from the opposite hash. That's a far throw to kind of snap it. I will say the one thing, like I watched like the Matthew Golden touchdown, right? Like the fade in the end zone. You kind of watch it, and when I watched it live, I thought it was a bad ball. It was kind of underthrown at his shoelaces. But what you kind of see actually as Donovan rolls out, he sees just how wide open it is. And instead of, continuing to roll and flip his hips, he just snaps it out there because he knows it's so wide open. I just got to get it over there.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe he would have done the same thing in that situation when he sees the moment that, kind of rub happens. Was it Sam Brown who was attacking vertically? Like, you just got to flip it out there. And, he waited, an extra 2 steps before he even pumped to kind of, play it out. And at that point, the ball.
Maybe you question the rollout part of that then, or I mean, I don't know if that's even accurate either. But why not just the whole stand up and throw it basically? Don't even drop.
I mean that. Well, you're trying to make it a shorter throw.
You make it, yeah.
Right. So you roll out to close the distance because again, I mean that's basically if you're standing from the hash line to basically the end of the field, that's a 30-40 yard throw.
Yeah.
So that's really hard to put on a rope. So you roll the pocket to make it a shorter distance,
shorter throw,
but it takes time. And so that's where it's like does the timing of the route with the distance really work out when you'd had such success with that mesh concept over the top? You swing Parker out to the flat, run a mesh over the middle. I think it would have been there. But at the end of the day, you're right. I mean, we can talk about how they could have made it more optimal for Donovan Smith, but
right.
But at the end of the day, I mean that's a throw that a Big 12 starting quarterback, you hope they can make.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those throws. If he throws it 10 times, how many, so to speak, will he get right versus wrong? And I think they've probably seen him make that throw, and I'm sure he made that throw other points during the game or similar throws. Just I think when you talk about the Big 12 level starter, that's kind of where you get to that point where I think he's still developing, and we're going to come down to consistency, right? Your best quarterbacks in the country, way more times than not, make that throw perfectly, and that's what makes you a high-level quarterback and gives you the NFL interest and all that. I think Donovan's grown a lot this year. I think we've seen growth in him, but I also see room for more growth, and I think that that's the biggest debate is will it come or not. I remember when Clayton Tune was in the same spot, I came about as close to kind of closing the book in terms of me thinking that he would ever get to that level or not. After that first Texas Tech game to open the season when he had that really bad game and threw the interceptions. And so I think I'm definitely not in a spot to where I want to close the book on Donovan. I'm just saying it takes some time sometimes. And as long as you're still seeing some improvements, and I think this obviously plays into the rest of the season as well, if you're still seeing improvements from him, that's what you want. Until he stops moving forward in his development, then he is,
So certainly don't mean to say like, is Donovan, do we need to move on, right? Like, again, I've stayed pretty consistent here where I say, if the staff tells me Donovan's the best we got, I trust him, right? There's some who want to see Uyale and, maybe that kid has a really bright future. He's
Right.
really young and probably
Right.
doesn't know the system very well. He got here late, like, so I'm more than happy to write it out with Donovan. But when you talk about what is the ceiling on this team, it
Right.
kind of rests at his feet. And you're right. He's certainly
That's fair.
shown, he's certainly shown improvement as the season has gone on. But where I would, and I think I mentioned this on a previous episode, the biggest difference I see between like the Clayton Tune situation in 21 and Donovan Smith is it's kind of a reverse, right? Like Tune always had it between the ears. It was more a question of like, can he actually make the throws? He'd always, just have like some really horrible throws. His arm strength was never there, at an NFL level kind of guy. And Donovan Smith has all of the physical attributes.
Yeah.
He can make every throw on the field. In fact, like part of his problem, especially with his deep ball, for example, that play to Sam Brown, he knows he can throw it so far that he holds it too long.
Yeah.
And then he's trying to throw it 50 yards on a rope instead of leading his receiver, right?
Yeah.
So like there's some of that stuff where like the challenge for Donovan is the between the ears stuff and knowing when to lead a receiver and seeing the safety on that interception he threw in the end zone and like it's a lot of just mental mistakes and stuff that is somewhat harder to like it's not just like, hey, repetition, like I don't know how you coach that up besides just watch a whole heck of a lot of film and let the guy sit in the box and learn.
And you hope it gets more consistent over time. And if it doesn't, then someone else is going to come along that will do it right and get it more consistent. And I mean, that's how it plays out. But I'm kind of with you, and I know people hate to hear it sometimes, but on a lot of things, I'm going to concede to the coach's choices because I know it sounds dumb and simplistic, but I'm pretty sure they want to go out and win those games, and they want the best opportunity to do so. So
and they get to see them every day and see
they see so much more of it, right?
Yeah. So I did have something that I thought would be fun to talk about, because we saw obviously the run game, and I think Kevin, you were getting to this a little bit with Houston's lack of a run game against Texas, and so I thought it would be good to kind of talk through why that was and why unfortunately we probably won't see that trend continue. Because I know there were a lot of fans who were really excited and are saying, hey, is this our Memphis game? We're going to open up the playbook again and throw it 50 times a game and abandon the run. And I think probably not. Just watching, like, again, and I mentioned this in the preview earlier in the week, but Texas has a phenomenal defensive line, probably one of the best in the country.
Yep.
Houston knew there was no point in trying to run the ball. They actually did kind of do some of the air raid run stuff where they stacked like the 3 wide receivers and almost like a reverse trips formation to do like the screens out to the side for runs and stuff like that. But Texas, the weakness was that secondary, whereas some of the teams played earlier in the year, like TCU, right? Teams are saying, why are we trying to run the ball? Well, they're running this 3-3-5. They're dropping 8 into coverage. You have to be able to run the ball there. Texas was more than willing to let us throw the ball, and thankfully, Dana Holgorsen and company obliged. So
yeah, and I wanted to say I thought I saw coming out they did a lot more running early on, and then it felt like there was, and it might just be how I watched it play out, but it felt like there was a point where you started seeing all that quick out stuff where, like you mentioned, with the old. Had more of the old air raid concepts to it in terms of routing and stuff like that. But that could have been just me thinking about it. But I don't think, I'm with you, I don't think they ever really felt like they had a overwhelming chance to run the ball, especially inside against Texas. And I think that got addressed in the post game as well when asking, why not go with the quarterback sneak in that situation and as far as the 4th down play. And again, I can't, other than like you said, giving maybe a higher percentage throw to make in that situation. I mean, the play call was right. It just,
the execution. It was the execution. Do you want to run at Sweat on that defensive line? I mean, that 93 that Texas had, like 6'4", 360 pounds, and that dude. I mean, at field level, that dude looks bigger than what they listed.
And he moves for a guy his size. He moves like that. You could tell why he's going to be playing on Sunday soon.
Now,
Exactly.
I will call a little bit of BS on Dana Holgorsen in the post game saying, we're never going to run the QB sneak against Texas, right? The reasoning he gave was just how dominant that defensive line is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I watched him after the touchdown to Manjack gets called back. We line up on the 6-inch line, and what do we run? Shotgun, draw up the middle to Parker Jenkins. And what did we do? We put in an extra lineman. Peyton Dunn went in on the left side as that tight end, and that's what got the play blown up. We added an extra huge 6'6", 300-pound offensive lineman, and they just shot the gap and blew that play up right away. If you're under center there,
right,
we actually got good push up the middle. You watch right off the butt of Tyler Johnson got the double team, and Pat Paul opened up his lane. Donovan would have shot right through there. And now maybe they give a different look if we're under center and all of that good stuff.
Right, that's understandable. True, that's true.
But my point being, to say we're not going to run the ball in short yardage situation, you're already doing that. You're just making it harder on yourself.
Right.
What was my kind of thought,
and that's fair. And my point being on the other end of just some of the discussion on the board that they're not going to pick that moment to be the first time ever that they're going to run him up under center. I mean, I think there's a reason. I don't know if there is or not. I would hope there's a reason. Again, I'm going to defer to people that hopefully have a better reason for not putting him under center more. But you're not going to do it there. Obviously, that's going to make it a little bit too much. And what almost wigged me out, I'm trying to think who I was with last week at the West Virginia game when it happened. There was a point in the West Virginia game, I can't remember off the top of my head where it was, but I think they went up to try to fake a snap or something to that effect with West Virginia. They were going to see if they could draw him. But he walked up under center, and I thought, oh, wow. Like I saw it in my brain, I thought, this is going to be bad on the board. They finally put this guy under center, and it's only because they know they're not going to snap it. I just remember me in my brain that thinks about the message board at times thinking, oh, wow, please don't do this right now. This is so bad. Yeah. And I remember I laughed about it at the time, and I don't think it came up last week, but I hope everyone appreciates I see the humor in that in the moment when it happened against West Virginia. So, we did have another question there. Update on Caldwell from John Mandel. Let me pop that up there real quick. Well, Coach, it was funny. We had a group text going last night after I got back home, even though Kevin wouldn't let me and Gatlin talk on our Twitter, or excuse me, on our joint text
Get a room,
back
guys.
and forth. He said, "Save it for the show."
Get a room.
So,
right.
I get it. So we let it be for the night. But we were laughing on another just because in the post game they talked about Caldwell. And I think Coach Holgorsen said it was a full lower body cramp, and I'm just like, to hear that, I'm thinking, good God, that sounds bad and painful. And while I remember on the playback it showed, and it was like, oh, his foot's at a weird angle. We'll come back, but you could tell his calf was cramped up. You could see that there, but. And I kind of assumed that, maybe it was, what I mean? You couldn't see very well, but they came back and they showed later they're like banging on his legs and stuff and trying to get the muscles to loosen up. And they just couldn't get him to release, so they had to get him on a cart to get him out of there. Mm-hmm. Coach sounded fairly nonchalant about that it was going to be okay. Everything he had heard was it was cramps only. It would have to have been a pretty bad one, obviously. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's what it was with him because he played his tail off, and him and Dot on the inside. I know they've had their ups and downs, but they've played really well here the last few weeks, and considering who they've been playing against.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, I think if anyone is to be concerned about, it's probably Manjack.
That's true.
Yeah.
And because Coach even said, I think he almost said it too, because he said, I wouldn't be surprised. He said something about Manjack's back there and he's like, he got his bell rung. And I would bet strongly that he is as strong he's going to get checked at least for the concussion protocol. It sounded as if he wanted to say that, but maybe not in the moment. Yeah. Obviously, he doesn't like to give anything away on that term. But he switched it to he got his bell rung, and you could tell when he got up. Manjack's a tough kid and all that. And he's not going to show weakness, obviously, on the field. He's one of those guys. But he got hit pretty good there, and I think it's probably right. I know it also got brought up with him questioning the spot, and he said he questioned that in terms of targeting. And when you go back and watch the replay on both times, you could see him ask the ref if it was reviewed or if it was whatever.
So
Stinks.
let's jump in.
Feel free with all the fun stuff going on about the spot and the ref and the replay and all this. I get all that, but you could see it on the replay. He literally did ask for it, and I don't.
Yeah, well, so this was part of Rob and I's conversation last night.
There you go. Go ahead.
This was my frustration with I took issue with Dana's press conference for several reasons. So first of all, I've never seen a coach say and openly admit, I don't know the rules of football like that. And I can understand, like, again, Rob, I understand your point of him saying, oh, I don't understand because, I thought, they tell me they're looking at it, but it's literally your job to know. There should be no doubt in your mind, hey, if I call this timeout, is that going to get them to take a longer look at it? Because he didn't know. He's asking them and saying, did you guys take a look at it? And they're saying, yep, they said it's good. Okay. You shouldn't have to ask the refs. You should have asked a ref back in March, hey, this kind of situation, what happens, right? How does the relationship with the booth work? You should know that.
This is why they come out during spring ball.
Exactly. You should know that process intimately by the time a game like this comes up. And by the way, you've been a head coach for 20 years. You should know. The other thing, and this was just kind of a rub with I don't know, maybe I'm beating a dead horse here at this point, but Dana walks out and goes, we hung with the number 8 team in the country. What else do you want? And, they have every advantage. We've got nothing. That's a great message to recruits. Right? I mean, this is an opportunity. You did just hang with the number 8 team in the country. And, I saw Brian Early put out a tweet today, quoted Dion and said, right, y'all better get us now because this is the worst we're ever going to be. Something's building. Like, that should have been the message coming out of this is like, man, I'm telling you what, the gap is closing.
Right.
UT doesn't have every advantage anymore. We're in the Big 12. I see what you're saying on that. Yeah, the
same message, but phrased in a better way.
Yeah, the messaging
look how close we
are was just
we're right on their heels.
Exactly. Yeah. And it just that's like when I look at what is, and this is where I said I walked out of this game a little conflicted, is the culture and the details around the program. It has been so nonchalant up to this point, and it's like you look at it, and what happened with West Virginia, right? We hear all week, this is the hardest week of practice they've had. Dana is on their butt about all the little stuff. Why are you just now on them about all the little stuff? That's what separates a good from a great team. And it's just frustrating to see this now and think, man, if they had just, instead of being the hands-off, hey, you do you kind of coach for the first 4 weeks of the season, if he'd been on them about the details and had a better game plan and spent more time, trying to do some, situational football stuff, instead of saying, nope, this is our offense and we're going to run it, we're probably a win or two richer already. And, and that ultimately is the frustrating part about this program right now with Dana at the helm is you're never going to be that team that is just always in the conversation, because you're always going to drop a stupid game or two because there's just no discipline. And I will now step off my soapbox.
No, I think it's a fair assessment. I do, just in terms of, I think the inconsistency carries over sometimes in the staff to the players. See what I'm saying? Some of the biggest problems that the players have on the field is inconsistency. And I mean, I can't speak to everything that goes on in day in and day out, but the things here and there, the small little things that maybe aren't all that important in the moment, but they build up probably, the inconsistencies with this and that, and the delegation of this and that type thing. Those are the type of things that maybe here and there aren't that big of an issue, but if it becomes a systemic deal, for lack of a better situation there, or a better way to put that, if it becomes program wide, then it's easy to see how it could bleed into the performance as well as far as inconsistencies. And your first point that you made, and this is just funny in terms of how we both view things, and this is what we tried to talk about last night, but I viewed it more in the moment from Holgerson, of course, and this is how this is our two different brains, and we link up on a lot of things, and there's things we won't. But I took it more in the terms of, I mean, I thought I understood the rules, but I guess I don't know the rules. Of course, that may be me lending too much favor to him in that situation, and maybe he'll get asked again and clarify on Monday. But I think if he were to come out and say, no, I really don't know the rules, I would be as shocked as what Gatlin was initially and even in the moment. If that's, you know what I mean? If he's asked again.
No,
and he's like, no, really, I don't know the rules. And that's concerning to say the least.
No, I mean, to your point, like, again, I understand what I think he was trying to say, which is,
again, the phraseology, just like the other point you made.
For sure. But also, like, there's a level of, I mean, I think what he's trying to point out is there is this weird kind of shroud of mystery around the review process in college football.
Yeah.
Like, everything runs through the booth. Well, who's the booth? What does that mean? You know, like,
right.
You don't have a challenge flag.
Sorry, I really hate to cut you off again, but it just popped in my brain what I wanted to say something about earlier. In the moment, so when they did early on, I happened to be standing right by where the replay guy stands on the sideline. Early on, when the Manjack touchdown, the over-the-shoulder catch where they reviewed it and all that, and it was an obvious review. They stopped. They brought the camera out there. So what happened, and it was interesting to me because I like to see how this actually works, and this will answer at least only a little piece of what you're about to say, Gatlin. When it's a play that's potentially being reviewed upstairs, there's a guy with a headset down there that stands right next to the down marker and the yard marker. And what he does is, as they came running down the field, of course, right, they catch that ball, and Houston tries to immediately run down there and get on the ball, right? They want to go. They know it could, you know what I mean? Oh, no, I'll take that back. That's right, because they had initially said it was a touchdown, right?
Yeah, they thought it was a touchdown.
Right. So, but they were coming down the field nonetheless. I don't know if they were going to go ahead and try to kick the extra point quickly to try to, before they could review it or not, but
probably.
It seems like I remember them coming down the field, but the guy on the sideline with the headset, that's the designated guy, he wears a specific color. He comes out on the edge of the field, and he has his hand raised up in the air, and they're looking over at him. And then at one point, I clearly see him do this to the ref, saying, okay, come to the sideline. They're going to review it. He goes over, gets the little stand thing that we see them use that's kind of covered up and got the screen in there. So I took that, obviously, in the moment, and later on I tried to go back because I didn't see it in the moment. I wasn't on that end. I tried to go back and see it in the moment after the controversy came up on whether or not it was reviewed. I didn't see it in terms of what the broadcast on the replay. You couldn't see where he was at and if he was doing that, because it would have been interesting to me to see if he had his hand up out there that they were reviewing it, and that quickly, like Dana said, that quickly they came back and said, oh, we did review it. Then at least that would explain that part of it, maybe reveal a little bit more of the process. But, of course, I couldn't see it, and I couldn't see it on the replay, and so I couldn't tell you if the same process happened or not. But in the moment, I'm a guy that sees things like that and like, okay, that's interesting. That's how that works. You know, the guys he's standing over the ball waiting, he's looking over to see if they're going to review it or not officially. And so it's just one of those things that popped in my brain in the moment. I tried to go back and see, and it wasn't viewable on that. No, that at least would have told us whether or not they were trying to review it in the moment, or if he just went straight to the wall and they just kept on going. I would find it hard to believe they reviewed that.
Yeah, and I maybe this is just the conspiracy theorist in me, but I do look at that and think, if you watch on the broadcast, like right before that happens, they give you an announcement because Utah and USC was about to kick off, and they give the announcement that, like, hey, the game's going to start on FS1 or whatever it was, or like, right, hey, it's going to be a delayed start or whatever, right? So, okay, does the broadcast team really want this thing to go into overtime and push back the next primetime game for a late window kick? Probably
it's a West Coast
not.
Kick, no less.
Yeah, exactly. So, is there some level of like, hey, do the quick review. We got to hurry this thing up. We don't have time for a long review, especially when it's coming from the booth. It's not the refs on the field who are making that decision. It's
right,
something
because it's
in
inside the
New
2
York.
minutes. That's another thing we cleared up on the board. Because it's inside 2 minutes, he can't challenge it. But
Yeah.
the other side of that being, people would like to have seen him call a timeout or whatever. Maybe if he's right in the moment and they looked at him and said, no, we reviewed and it's confirmed.
Yeah.
I get
I
you,
do
and
think
I get it. I've heard the argument. I do. I really do. I get it with the whole timeout in your pocket thing.
Yeah,
This
because
and
he was
that.
down to one timeout at that point.
But
Yeah.
they
Because he
also
had
had
bird
extra
two
time
earlier.
there.
Yeah.
They had the extra time there too, because remember Texas guy went down with an injury.
Yeah.
So
I was looking for the Grassy Knoll shooter on that one because I did not see what happened. And I was in the end zone. I saw those
Grassy Knoll.
coaches yelling at him to get on the ground, get on the
Yeah.
ground. And I was just like,
that was 2 plays in a row, if I'm not mistaken, right, Kevin?
I
It
think
was right around that time. There was another one that went down
with the spot, or are you talking about an injury?
somewhere right in there. There was 2 of them with the injury, almost on that last drive. I want to say.
I just remember the 91, the defensive player, number 91, who just kind of just.
So
fell
I
down,
will
you know?
I will share a funny anecdote about number 91. So my seats are like on the 3rd row, right behind the Texas bench, and
Okay.
me and my friend were at the game, and we were heckling the players and stuff, and 91 came off at one point, and we got him to drop an F-bomb at us, and then we yelled at the coaches and let them know that
Nice.
91 was dropping curse words, and he got called over to the sideline and got chewed out by his position coach.
Nice.
So that was pretty fun.
Yeah, that was pretty obvious, and you kind of have to think, is there anything that anyone can do about that? I mean, you have to assume that a player's hurt, right? You have to first assume that a player's hurt. You can't just assume that they're just faking it just to stop the clock, right? But sometimes it is obvious
like that, where like you're supposed to have to burn a timeout or something,
right?
But I believe that only has to do with like the offense, right? Where it's like a 10-second runoff, or you burn a timeout. I'm not sure how that works with the defense, but you're right, Kevin. I think there should definitely be something in place, especially like that inside a 2-minute situation. Because that did really kind of temper the momentum a little bit and slow things down. I will say though, from a kind of game management perspective, you bring up the one timeout, and that is the one thing that really hurts is, after all of this, right? Houston still could have had another chance after that turnover on downs if don't burn 2 timeouts for having 12 men on the field, and then the very next play having 10 men on the field.
Hey, they corrected the mistake. There was not 12 men on the field the next time.
That's right.
You give them credit where it's due, buddy.
Defense, all of that, but man, burning those 2 timeouts cost.
It's one of those things in the moment you note it, and it came back to get him. It'd be interesting to see how that would have gone had he had 2 in his pocket at least instead of just.
Well. So I'm saying, like, don't even worry about the burning a timeout. If you think about it, if he has all 3 timeouts
in order to get the ball back.
Exactly. So now Texas gets the ball on their own 8-yard line with a minute and 10 seconds left. So, they probably run the ball 3 times. You call all 3 timeouts. Houston gets the ball at the 50 with 45 seconds left. And, that's a big assumption that they're able to get the 3 and out and all of that. But say they do, now Houston has one more shot at it. So, like, those 2 timeouts cost them, perhaps another opportunity.
One, I think, if I remember correctly, was on Belk, and the other one they thought was on Belk, but even Belk didn't know where it was. This is somebody else, I guess. I'm taking their word for it on the board, but the first one was on Belk. The second one, he tried to jump Belk, and Belk acted like as though he also didn't know who called the timeout, which may be a whole other issue then.
Well, it's still. I mean, look, the timeouts were right.
It's still wasted.
It was 12 players on the field the first time, which would have been a penalty.
Yeah.
And then it was 4th and 2, and you've only got 10 guys on the field. That's how long touchdowns happen. Like,
still bad for sure.
Yeah. So I'm not opposed to burning the timeouts in those situations. You just hate to have to do it. You're upset that you kind of get put in that spot in the first place.
Yeah, Holgerson was pretty upset about those too. I watched the replay a little bit earlier, and I mean, guy looked like he was about to explode.
But that's the details, right? Like again, you don't ask for that level of attention to detail throughout the week in March. This is when it rears its ugly head, is in October.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I did real quick, if we got a couple minutes. I know we're kind of coming up on time here,
No,
but
you're
I
good.
thought,
Yeah,
it
go ahead.
would be,
What you got?
I thought it would be good to kind of show, not break down like some plays, but just kind of a couple screenshots or like of what Texas's defense was doing.
Sure.
Kind of have some interesting conversation there around how Houston was able to identify it and take advantage of some things.
Obviously, going back to those, what if we had those timeouts? I mean, there's always going to be what ifs in a game like this, right? What if Golden didn't commit that penalty, when we had a 3rd and short and then gave us a 3rd and long? There's always going to be what ifs in the game, and
Yeah.
that's when you got to play smart. And whenever a poster last night said that was our one penalty, I had to go back and look, because I do remember other penalties being called, but they didn't hold. But that was the one, and that one. It really hurt. It hurt the momentum on that drive, and going from a 3rd and 3, and instead of having to do a 3rd and 18. I mean, we still were able to get a field goal and tie the game up. But you have to think, if we're at a 3rd and short, we convert. What if we score a touchdown? We're up by 4. Let's say Texas scores that touchdown regardless, then it's a 3-point game, and now we don't have to score a touchdown. All we need is a field goal to go in and at least tie the game up. Even though we still have an option to score a touchdown to win the game. Another thing that I was thinking about last night. Okay, let's say, just for the sake of argument, that we were able to score a touchdown there towards the end of the game, right? We converted that 4th down.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say we scored a touchdown. Would you have wanted Holgerson to go for the field goal or go for the win?
100% go for 2. You could tell,
Yeah.
I think, in the post-game press conference, Dana was talking about it like that they would have won had they not gotten the call. Like, everything in him, I think, was we're ending this thing here.
Yeah. I would have.
The way the rules are, that's the smartest choice, to be honest with you. You're going to end up going for 2 shortly thereafter anyway, so you might as well go for it there. And you know what I mean? Just be done with it. Yeah, I know there's people that at home go for the tie, road for the win, this and that. But that's, I think, in the newest, of course, everybody loves the analytical word these days, but the newest analytics, specifically with, I think, Holgerson, he would have just gone for it, and he would have lived with it either way. You know how he is in these situations. You don't care.
Let's see what you got, Gatlin.
All right. So are we seeing the screen now?
Not me.
Nope.
We need to add it to the stage.
All right.
Oh, there you
go. Okay, good deal.
Yep, there you go.
Okay. So
I'm going to switch my battery while you're doing that. Go ahead.
Okay.
You got to buy that part, Rob.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to kind of break down just a little bit of like Texas's base defense and kind of what we're seeing, how Houston took advantage of it. So we talked a little bit about this on the board, but their primary defense is a 4-2-5, 2 high safety, and quarters coverage. So what that means is these 4 players, the 2 cornerbacks and the safeties, are splitting the field up into fourths that they're covering. The way Texas runs this, though, is what we call like a matchup zone or like match principles. They talked about this a little bit on the broadcast, but basically there's a couple different triggers that can determine when they switch this to man. It might be like a route concept. So, say these 2 players are guarding these 2 in kind of like a zone look, but they run like an out and up, then, they would basically just switch. So the outside guy would take the out route and the deep guy would take the go. And then they would just be man, right, from then on out. Texas, a lot of it was just kind of depth of route. But, credit to Dana and company. They watched a lot of film clearly on this base defense. I'll show you just real quick here. So they run this play action, and the safety takes kind of just a couple steps forward and bites on the play action, frees up Sam Brown. I don't really know why we moved the pocket, to be honest with you. I think that hurt the throw a lot, but just wanted to kind of show. So that's like the base defense look. And then fast forward. This was, for anyone who didn't understand when I was talking about like on that fourth down, the mesh concept that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Is the screen kind of going crazy for you guys when I move my mouse at all, or is that just on my end?
It's normal for technology.
Okay.
I wouldn't read too much
I blame,
into it.
I blame our digital dude.
Yeah, it's just a connection thing, you know,
Of course,
processor
okay.
speed, all that stuff.
Okay. So right here we've got this one high safety look. Texas
Right.
did not really disguise it as well as I'd seen at different points in the season. Maybe that's some things we were doing formationally, but it makes it very easy for Donovan to see when they're in man defense, right? So when you have this one safety up high, it tells you that they're probably bringing pressure and that everyone else is kind of just matched up man on man the rest of the way. So when we talk about mesh, what that means is you have, these two guys, are just kind of running a like a crossing route over the middle here, but you're kind of running like a natural like pick play. You just did a really great job of kind of like attacking it vertically, and you carry this guy with you and kind of slow down the guy across the middle. They ran this like 30 times.
Use the ref too, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And that's, they ran it in a lot of different formations, different spots on the field. I'll just stop sharing at this point. They ran it from a lot of different angles, but just that idea of like the mesh kind of pick play is, a foundation of the air raid offense. But that was kind of their idea was if they had the two high, they were attacking vertical. And we saw that with like man jack up the seam, a lot of times, or Sam Brown on the outside, or Dalton Carnes on like the little angle routes, like, like inside release corners, like stuff like that. Or if they had the man coverage, they just trusted our wide receivers to, just kind of go get lost in the chaos and pop out on the other side. Yeah. And, I'll be honest, watching that, I'll put Texas on upset alert against Texas Tech. I think Zach Kittley can run that offense probably even better than Dana called it. And if you want someone to throw the ball 60 times a game, Zach Kittley is your man. Go ask Texas Tech fans about that one. They're pulling out their hair.
For better, for worse.
Yeah, exactly, right now because of it. But I think there's just something about that matchup. Texas Tech is going to take advantage of that, probably a little bit better even than Houston did. But just wanted to point out, because I'd been talking a little bit on the board about it, and we talked about it a little bit here. Wanted to kind of point out some things, that Texas was doing defensively and how Houston kind of took advantage of it late in the game.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely. Like you said, you're going to continue to see those concepts evolve into other things in other offenses. But like am I correct? That's the same mesh route they ran that the West Virginia ran last week on the play before the Hail Mary, right? For them to score, that the DBs didn't switch when they meshed, or no, they picked, but not a mesh.
Yeah, that's more like I call that like a scissors route. So it's like two vertical routes, and you got like a post and a corner, and they cross. Pick the defender and just kind of create some chaos. And in fact, on the Matthew Golden touchdown, we did see that. So it was kind of like a modified scissors, just based on where the defenders were. But you have two receivers attacking vertically, and I think it was Manjack ended up like breaking it into like a deep out route, just to kind of pull the defender flatter and give him that goal more space. Yeah, but the same kind of idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I see we're at 54 minutes over there for whatever that is. I know everybody's probably much more excited about the baseball game coming up here in just a little bit. So that's why we said we'd get on early and be done after about an hour. There you go. Kevin's already, look at that.
I've been wearing this chain. All right, I've been wearing this chain for the last 3 games that the Astros have played. So
do not take
it until they lose. And I've worn this jersey, and there's one other shirt that I've worn. And even, I've already warned them at work in my club, like, hey, students, if we're still winning, I'm probably going to wear the same thing every day. I just want y'all to know that right now. All right. I'm not guaranteeing I'm going to wash it, each day also. I'm going to keep the suspension, the suspiciousness alive. That's just the way that I am, so I'm going to keep wearing the chain, and I wear it to the store. Okay. I wear it out. Okay?
He said, I don't care.
I don't care, but I get a lot of compliments on it. And I get a lot of people.
Thank you for your service, Kevin.
Yeah, exactly.
You're welcome, Houston. You're welcome.
For the frowns you do get over that, you wear it like a badge of honor, because
exactly,
if it works, it works. Who's to argue with that?
That's right.
So then tonight we can expect to either have a Kevin post game with the chain on because the Astros won and celebrating, popping bottles because of the World Series, or we'll get Kevin burning that chain in infamy because finally the luck wore out.
Exactly. One of the two is going to happen.
Hey, one of the two, man. We're here for it. That's an event.
Before we decide to end this, I do want to talk about the crowd a little bit, and it was great to see. I mean, and look, there was a lot of burnt orange in the crowd, but that was to be expected, right?
Yeah.
But what a great game atmosphere to have. I mean, and there was 42,000 that they announced at the game. 42,000. Can you imagine what it would be like every single game for this team? I mean, and just the energy that it might give them to play in front of a packed house every single game. I think it makes a difference. It makes a difference when it comes to home field advantage to have a packed house. And there's a difference at that stadium between playing in front of 20, 25,000 and 40,000. I thought it was a great game environment, and it's something that this team needs. This team shows that it can compete, that it can compete at a Big 12 level. And I think that you should just get out and support, no matter what you feel about the staff, about the coaches. We got a lot of good players on this team. I keep saying that. And, I was really happy to see the crowd and the way it was. It took me an hour to get home, but that was for different reasons. Whoever got into that accident on I-10 at Patterson.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That was brutal.
Yeah.
You almost gone the same direction.
It was interesting because I heard some people complaining about trying to get out of the garage, and I don't know, maybe we just got there a little early, but we stayed the whole time, walked straight to our car, got straight out onto Scott and hit 45 and had no problem. So I don't know.
I touched on the crowd thing too during the thoughts from the morning after, just about the way the fans and specifically the student section that end down there, the way they really cheered the team at the end after they came back and it was heading to halftime. I know they could have had a few more points there, but the effort, the fact they didn't quit, what I talked about earlier, I mean, and I said as much on the board, I get it. People want to boo and they're specific that they're booing at the staff. And I get that. The players aren't probably going to give you much of a outward reaction to it, but they hear that stuff. And like I said on the board, imagine, you're looking to carry that momentum over into the second half, and you're heading into the locker room. You're feeling good about the way things are going on the field, and then that ovation comes at the end there when you're heading off. I mean, that whether they show either side of it outwardly, I mean, those players rather walk in being cheered than hearing the boos rain down. And that's just, I mean,
no doubt. And I'll add a little pitch for I know nobody from the University of Houston administration listens to this podcast, but should this find its way to their ears, I've got a pitch for you. Take the second level, that like mezzanine deck above the student section, on that far end zone.
Yeah.
Turn that into student seating. Right.
So you have that whole end zone closed in with students.
I think about that too. I've thought about that too.
Because you had them packed in there like sardines, and I know there were tons of students who couldn't get tickets to this game.
Yeah.
And if you're able to pack that, because no one, even on the the games where the student section isn't like totally sold out, that section is empty anyways. They're the last seats to get sold, the last seats to get filled out anyways. So designate it to students so that for a game like this, you have an entire end zone of 10,000 students.
Fans, students, the recruits are right there as well. That's good for them to hear.
I mean, it would make it look so much better because you do have this beautiful sea of red and they're all crazy. And then upstairs, there were empty seats.
Yeah.
Like several of them, and it's like, man, that would look really cool to have.
Well, that's hopefully something they start getting. I think as they get to that point, hopefully they'll do something to that effect. I agree, to have that whole end zone be the student section, the crazy noise. I mean, they're going to be the wildest fans. That's what you want. So,
and
make
if I
it
could
truly
mention,
a good end of the field for the home team.
I hear what you say about that. I think kind of the heat had something to do with that, where a lot of them were probably going downstairs to the
I
concourse
think some of
and
that
watching
too,
the game
maybe,
in
but
Oh,
in
no
the shade.
doubt.
Yeah.
Those seats are probably the worst in the stadium.
they'll be right in the sun the whole game.
But that's all the more reason to give them to the students.
Exactly. They don't care. You know,
They'll
they
sit
can do
there.
it.
You know,
Great to see the student section show up like that. Also,
Hey,
they were
for real, that
great
was
the
great.
entire game. Great.
They brought the energy.
that says a lot. That, like, I mean, look, if you put Houston in a, they don't even have to be good. You just put them in a good game, the students will show up.
Good
Brandon
opponents.
Couture has done such a great job transforming on-campus life. Like, there are students there who want to be involved. You've done it with basketball. Like, the kids want to be excited, and I think this was more proof of that the opportunity's there.
Yeah. And if I could add one more thing,
Yeah, sure.
Texas fans were really good at this game. I have absolutely no problem at all with the Texas fans who were at the game. And I say that in a little bit of a bittersweet tone, because it was such a good game, and it was a competitive game, and it's a shame that we're not gonna, at least in the foreseeable future, get a chance to play them again. I would love a return game in Austin, just to see how things would go there, and just to see how much red we can get in the stands there. But a little bittersweet, because they were a longtime rival of us, and we haven't seen them in a long time, and then we get one shot at them. And it was a good competitive game, and it was a well fought game, and both sides, showed up and represented. So it's, for me, it was just a little bit bittersweet that we're not going to be able to, get a rematch off of this really good game.
Yeah, I think their best shot at seeing them again will probably come via bowl tie-ins between the SEC and Big 12 before they'll get something scheduled.
Well, Dodds isn't the AD anymore there anymore. It's a different one now. So, maybe they saw how this experience worked, and they liked it, and said, hey, at least we didn't have Bleachergate again. And, everything, like I said, it was a competitive game. It was a good game. So I don't see why they wouldn't, at least try. But then again, it's because they have Rice. That's probably why.
Well, and I think it's, to your point, like, yes, Rice certainly helps it, but they have so much to lose and absolutely nothing to gain from playing us.
Right.
When they can schedule Rice and get that trip to Houston to recruit.
I get it.
Yep.
So
I get it.
I am curious, Rob, maybe you haven't had a chance to check in on this yet, with it just haven't happened, but have you been able to get any feedback from the recruits so far?
Not much. I had a couple guys I've reached out to. I've got messages into some more. Just because by the time I got home and all that, generally I don't mess with guys late, even though it was Saturday. Sure. I probably should get over that by now, because Lord knows I've got my girls about to be teenagers and they aren't trying to be in bed on Saturday. So, but yeah, and I'm hoping to get a little bit of help too as well from the network as far as chasing, since this was the only game in the state type thing. So I would expect in the next 2 or 3 days, probably for sure starting tomorrow, but in the next couple of days, you're going to start seeing, I'll have some stories on some of the guys, as well as if I can only get a few quotes or just a couple of responses, I'll package that up at least into one spot. So even if it's a few sentences from multiple different guys at a time, that's fine, as opposed to waiting to try to get a great one for a story. I'll mix that in as I go. But I touched base with several of them. Snacks was down there, which I thought was cool. DeSoto, huge game for them this week coming up. They play Duncanville, and that's for the district pretty much right there up there. That's a crazy district. I was talking to him about that last night. To him and his family was with him, but saw Raekwon Bell, Jadavian Ferguson, I believe. Jacaden Ferguson. Sorry about that.
Jacaden Ferguson.
He's the wide receiver from Marshall. It's 2025. I know they had a ton of guys, obviously, over there. They were the only show in town, so they made the most of that. But yeah, I'd say on the board in the next couple of days, you'll see some feedback flowing through there and all that. Yes. And you know what? It's something too that's been brought up. I think Kevin's brought it up to me. Some of these guys that are commits and have good. Mo Williams has got a great personality and stuff, but we can get him on here for one of these podcasts, and I think he'd be willing to do that. So
Sure.
Maybe that's the way we can feed that in next time and in the future. Getting more immediate feedback. Just get a couple of these commits at least that were excited to be there and saw the game and get their reactions to how they felt.
Yeah, that'd be a cool idea.
So,
unless they
that.
posted something, if they could have posted something, we could have, maybe shared that or something. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I haven't seen much, but
yeah,
I did see some guys that were over there. So yeah, we'll work on getting that to the site ASAP.
Good.
Right.
I don't know how much better luck I'll have tonight with the Astros playing in terms of getting guys around here and even up in the Dallas region. You know what I mean? It's kind of weird, but I'm sure I'll send some messages
I was just curious. I like I said, I figured it was.
Oh no, I agree. Yeah, no, and it got asked. Abe asked it over here in the questions a while ago too, and so
yeah, I asked it earlier as well.
Yeah, we'll get it on there.
Awesome. All right.
Anything else? Speak now, forever hold your peace.
Nah, I can see progress in this team, and this team is just fair. About there,
Still room to improve for sure, but I think there's some progress.
And again, it just goes to show you, that the games are won really in the trenches. Texas has a lot of skilled players in the trenches. A lot of NFL players, caliber players in the trenches. And so do we. But they have that depth that goes along with it, as well as the unlimited funds and resources and 150 years of top 10 recruiting classes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
I think next week will tell us a lot.
I think we keep saying that.
If Houston walks into Manhattan and just gets their teeth kicked in, then all right, hey, the kind of energy bank is drained. This was everything we had for the rest of the season, and it is what it is. And I think, a lot of us can probably live with that and maybe, get staying out of here, faster. And that's, one thing. But, if Houston walks into Manhattan and, I don't expect them to win that game, but if they, continue to fight after this, then I will be willing to admit that, there's definitely been some big growth throughout the season.
Well, K-State just blew TCU out by 40, I believe, yesterday. So we have our work cut out for us, right? But let's play the game. Let's put on the uniforms, play the game. Let's see what happens, because we probably should have won this game yesterday. We should have won that game yesterday.
Yeah. It'll be a fun week of coverage too. I got an old friend from my Rivals days, 10, 15 years ago, Tim Fitzgerald, that's a K-State guy that works for 247 now. So I talked to him at Big 12 Media Days just to catch up a little bit. He's been going through a bit of a health situation. And on top of that, I went on preseason. The K-State site was doing a little spot with each site of the new Big 12 members. And so I did a little spot with his deal as well. He's very crazy guy. Me and that guy go back a long time, and we've had some fun together. Just, he's one of those real fun guys. Great attitude. So anyway, I'm looking forward to that this week with him. He's one of my oldest friends in the business, and I enjoy getting a chance to see him and catch up every now and then. So I guess as you get older, folks, for those that are younger than me, as you get older, you get more sentimental about silly things like that.
Totally get it.
Kids make you soft, don't do it.
That's why I don't have kids.
All right, folks, I guess we're done, man. Until next time, I imagine we'll have something pregame wise. There you go, Kev. We'll have something pregame with K-State, and we'll see. It's an early game, so we'll leave it up to the guys and see how we feel about postgame, if we want to do it right after next week, or if we want to wait a day again or not. But we'll pass that on along with everything else on the site.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks, guys.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Those of you who were here, everybody who joined us for the show today, thanks for the support. We really appreciate it. I know that we'd probably do it if nobody was here listening, but it's obviously good to have an audience.
Sure.
Tell your friends, tell your family, spread the word about.
Go back and watch it after the fact if you weren't able to catch us live.
Exactly. So again, as always, like and subscribe if you're watching it now or later on. Obviously check out Cougar Digest for the latest recruiting news and University of Houston athletic news. Anything else, guys?
No, that's it.
All right. Well,
appreciate
good show.
Guys.
Yeah. We'll talk to everybody soon.
All right.